Hey guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to use storytelling to build a billion-dollar brand. So while we can't control the actions of our customers, we can influence their buying decisions just a little bit. Storytelling allows us to position our brand strategically in the customer's mind so that we can remain top of mind whenever they have a future purchase decision to make. A company that has done this really well and has created an entire empire off of this is EA. And if you know EA, you know that they are the owners of the Sims games. These are a set of games that are meant to simulate real life. So the goal for the customer, the gamers, the players is to really create a dream life or like a better version of their life. It is supposed to be like an escape and just like a fun game for them to play. So how EA has structured this is that they have a base game, which is about $60. And then they have expansion packs, which are about $20. Now, the base game is really the bulk of the game. So you have a lot of the things that you would expect to have in life. And so you have things like falling in love and having a family, but what you miss out on are really crucial aspects of life, which include weather, holidays, your pets, so cats and dogs, and jobs such as being a police officer and being a doctor. So knowing that players want to have a game that really closely mimics life, EA intentionally leaves out certain aspects of the gameplay and saves those for the expansion packs, knowing that people have an emotional connection that they're building on this game because it is kind of like your real life. So you do spend a lot of time creating this really perfect life that you want. So they're willing to pay that $20 extra to really create this. Another more general example would have to be with books. So a lot of times when there is a book that we are referring to as a learning tool, let's say that you're wanting to learn a foreign language, a lot of times we buy a vocabulary book and then we get through the vocabulary book, and later in the book they say it would be really helpful if you had someone to practice with as a language partner and you could hear the accent that the language is actually spoken in so that you're not just reading these vocabulary words in your own accent. And so then they're like, oh, but actually, we have videos that you can buy and you can use these as a tool so that you can hear the accent that the language is actually spoken in, and you can use that for practicing. So what you'll notice is that they're still playing on the goal of the customer to learn a language. They're just providing various ways to achieve this goal. So with the two examples that I just gave, the focus of the company is always on the customer's goal. With The Sims, the goal is to try to simulate real life. With the book, the goal is to learn a new language. When you have the customer's goal in mind and you know exactly what the customer is wanting to get out of your product or your service, then going back and creating a story of the customer's journey becomes really easy. And when the customer can see themselves in that story, they basically sell themselves on the product. Before I share with you my do's and don'ts on how to create a story that your customers really see themselves in, I want you to keep in mind that this story is not something that is set in stone. This story is going to be ever evolving. So if you find that in 2 years, the story that you told 2 years ago is no longer working, then just refine your story. Because ultimately what your story is meant to do is it's meant to get you more sales, get you more followers, build more connection, build a community. That is the goal of a story. If you don't already know how to tell your story or how to create a story, I do have a video on this and I will link it above and also down below in the description box. If you do need help creating your story, reach out to me using the link in the description box below. Now let's get into my do's and don'ts for storytelling. My first tip for storytelling is to bring your story to life and show, don't tell. You can do this by having really vivid details, quotes from past customers, and even really nice imagery. Humans remember stories 22 times more than facts. So when you throw a lot of facts at your customers, a lot of the times they will not be able to make the connection on their own between the facts and the benefits that they will receive. So you really need to spell it out for them in a story that is memorable. Next, your story should have some structure. So it should have a clear beginning, middle, and end. The beginning is where your customer acknowledges that they have a problem or you acknowledge that they have a problem. The middle is the journey that they go on to find a solution and where your product comes into play. And the end is where they have their initial problem solved using your product. I had a comment on a recent video that this technique is actually taught in creative writing courses. So they call it the hero's journey over there. I love that when something rings true, you begin to see it across industries and it's called different things and it shows up in different ways. So notice what I'm teaching here on this YouTube channel are actually a set of principles. It's kind of like gravity. So with gravity, it doesn't care who you are. If you are in the air, you are going to come back down no matter what. This is how brand strategy works. Brand strategy is a set of principles. So no matter your industry, all of the tips that I share with you in this video and other videos can be applied to your business. My third to-do is to be authentic and transparent. When your stories seem overly manufactured, nobody will trust it, and then nobody will trust your business. When creating your stories, I want you to pull from real experiences and tell these stories, or at least use them as inspiration. Next, I want you to appeal to emotions. So emotions are going to be like joy, fear, pride. Humans are very emotional beings and we act on emotion. So when we hear a story that evokes a certain emotion, we will remember the story more because of how we felt in that moment. A lot of times we hear the quote that it's not what you said to the person, but it's how you made them feel. People remember how you make them feel. This is so evident in a lot of commercials that we see. I want you to think of how many commercials have animals in them. So when humans see animals, we think of something that we love, something that brings us happiness, something that we want to take care of. And I want you to pay attention to how quickly a product or a business introduces their service so soon after seeing that animal. Then you'll notice that we begin to associate whatever emotion that we felt with that product. So if we saw the animal and we got really excited and felt really happy, then when we see like maybe this can of soda, we're gonna think that the can of soda is what made us really happy and really emotional. But also keep it simple. If your brand doesn't lend itself well to using animals, then don't worry about that. Find another way to find happiness for your customers. But just keep everything simple. Don't create a complex story because like I've said before, if you confuse, you lose. So we don't want to confuse anybody. We want to have a very linear, simple story that people, your customers, could even retell to others. I have a quick list of 4 don'ts, and my first don't for storytelling is don't be self-promotional. If you are using storytelling to get more sales, I want you to remember that if you are selling, you are helping. So if you are selling a book that has vocabulary words, you are helping people learn a language. If you are selling a video game that simulates real life, you're helping people envision a better life for themselves. So don't find a way to make your brand the hero of the story. You always want your customer to be the hero of the story. The second tip is to not be preachy or salesy. Remember, if you're selling, you are helping. So focus on the goal, let the story speak for itself, and if you're telling the story well, your customer will see themselves in the story and they will sell themselves on the story. So just focus on really creating that emotional connection and that will inspire action. My third and fourth tips kind of go hand in hand. The third one is to not be generic, and the fourth one is to not be overly polished. We don't want anything that is overused, so that would be generic, and we also don't want anything that feels too scripted. We want this to be a fresh perspective, and we want it to feel very genuine. Also, your customers are a very unique group of people, so they deserve a unique story. Some common mistakes that I see brands make when creating a story for their brand is that they are trying to force a story. If you force a story, it becomes unrealistic, and an unrealistic story doesn't connect with anyone. What we're really wanting to do is connect with our customers. So if you don't already have a story that you can base on stories of previous customers, maybe you're a new business, I want you to tell your own story. Now, I'm not saying that you have to completely involve your personal brand, but do just kind of use yourself as your ideal customer and tell your own story. Because what you'll find is that actually there are a lot of people that will connect with it because there are a lot of people that are just like you and more than you think. Another common mistake that I see brands make, and this has actually gone like worldwide as far as like news, is contradicting actions. So a way that we have seen brands do this very poorly is greenwashing. So greenwashing is when you say that you're going to be a very green company and help the earth, and then none of your actions follow suit. This is what we want to avoid. We want to avoid contradicting actions. And I find this happens a lot with my clients when they involve their personal brand. So what I want you to do is that if you have your personal brand involved with your business brand, I want you to make sure that your personal brand matches your business brand. So if your business brand aesthetic is really boho, but then your personal brand or your life, the way that you live, is very like corporate and it doesn't make sense, then that's going to feel very contradictory. And that's not what we want. We want to have some consistency. So if you have a brand or you're opening your own business, you don't want a story that is contrived, because then that's not going to feel real. It's not going to feel authentic. And we really want to feel authentic. So make your brand, your business brand, as close to your personal brand as possible if they are connected. And if they are not connected, then you want your business brand, any decisions that you make should also follow your actions and your values. The last mistake that I see brands make is that they don't have a central narrative. Your story needs to have one main character and one situation. So even if you're a brand that has about 10 different products that you sell, we don't need a story. If you're a furniture business, we don't need a story about the beautiful silverware on the table and how nice it looks. We don't need a story about the dining room chair that feels so good on your bottom. And we don't need a story about the living room ottoman that feels so nice for your feet to rest on. The general story with one main character would be that you have the ability to make a house a home using our curated selection of furniture. That's the story. That's the situation. It encapsulates all of the furniture that you offer, and it can tell a story for all of the products without getting into the nitty-gritty. Just keep it simple and have one main story. I do quickly want to touch on what storytelling means for your marketing activities. So I don't want you to just focus on your engagement metrics. I also want you to focus on how storytelling really communicates the values of your business. Are your values being accurately communicated to your customer through these stories? Are you getting more email list signups? Are you getting more followers? Are you getting more sales? If you use the right storytelling techniques and the right story for your customers, then one thing that you'll also begin to notice is that your customers begin to look similar. They begin to have similar demographics and psychographics. Also, don't be afraid to change your story over time. If you do a little A/B test and you find that story A is performing a little bit better than story B, then just tell story A. And then if over time you find that story B is now resonating, then start telling story B. Don't be afraid to refresh your brand as your brand grows. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. That would make me so happy. And if you need help telling your story and connecting with your audience, go to the link in the description box below, and I'll see you next time.